committee, the executive committee, to order. Mr. Brooks, lead us in the pledge. You're the official pledge. Yeah, yes.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, Mr. Brooks. Take the roll, please.
Mayor.
Here.
Benefield.
Here.
Brooks.
Here.
Frizzalone.
Here.
Gould. Hart. Ogalla. Here. Parker. Here. Staley Ferry. Here. Trumanello.
Here.
Weigel. Here. Winfrey. Here. And Houston.
Okay, thank you. First, we have different minutes to approve today. The first one would be the executive committee, executive session minutes from September 7th.
So moved.
Got a move? Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Executive committee minutes from October 5th.
Second.
Moved, second. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Executive committee executive session minutes from October 5th.
Moved.
Moved, second. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have executive committee minutes from October 12th.
Moved.
Moved, second. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any old business to bring forward today? Old business? Okay, then moving along. Under new business, updating Will County business travel reimbursement regulations. You know, what I'd like to do with this is sit down with maybe the auditor's office. You know, they have tables of, for example, IRS tables that talk about reimbursement for hotel rooms, and I think we already followed the meals, and certainly we follow the mileage, those types of things, the IRS regulations. But yeah, I think we really do need to tighten it up a little bit. So I think I will do is we'll work with purchasing and the auditor's office, and everyone, if you have any suggestions, put in suggestions. I will then bring forward maybe next month a list of changes, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, so that's, I think, kind of our intentions. Does anyone have any other comments with this? So we will keep this on the agenda going forward till we actually come up with a document that we can move forward, okay? Okay, next we have a number of renewals of consulting contracts. The contracts have been brought forward with the same terms from the prior year. I think that, you know, I'm open, as I think, you know, the entire board is open to any suggestions. If there's any desire to make changes, now would be the time to bring them forward. So before we get maybe into specific consulting contracts, I'm going to kind of just open up for comments about the consultants that we use now. So if anyone wants to kind of make a general statement on consultants and our use of consultants. No? Okay, then we'll get right into them then. Okay. Our first renewal would be for a consultant agreement between Mac Communications, Inc. So, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
You gonna make the motion?
I moved that.
Moved.
I heard someone move.
Denise made.
Oh, Denise did move, okay. Got a motion, second? Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have authorized renewal of state lobbying services agreement with Curry and Associates LLC. Move, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have authorized renewal of professional service contract with Lois Mayer. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorize renewal of contract with federal lobbyist firm of Smith, Dawson, and Andrew.
Move.
Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorize renewal of agreement with the Will County Center for Economic Development, CED. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have appropriating funds for the payment of the county engineer.
Move.
Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have authorizing contract with the Fiera Consulting Group for professional services. Moved. Second. Yeah, I'm not, yeah, this is for the workforce,
Yes,
what exactly what is this one for? Kurt, I mean, I see
Caroline's here.
Caroline or Paddock. But,
This is,
yeah, not that I'm opposed, I guess I just want to get myself up to date how we're using certain consultants. So on this particular one, what do they do for us?
So this is a new contract for the Workforce Board, and it is for professional services. More specifically, we requested proposals that would help us address how to further engage businesses in Will County in the workforce system, as well as help us understand how a participant moves through the workforce system and how satisfied they are, how we can improve that process. We received 5 proposals, and the review team then used the criteria to award it to Farah Consulting.
And can you tell us a little bit about Farah Consulting? Are they a local firm, national firm, or?
Sure. Farah Consulting, their principal person is Patricia Farah. She is well-versed with the businesses. In the
I know
area,
it is.
as well
I
as
know
the
who it
workforce
is.
system. And her proposal was the only one who stretched this to 2 years so that we could implement things in a more timely fashion, and brought on secret shoppers as an opportunity for us to learn more about the satisfaction of both our businesses and the participants.
And of course, this is Pat Farah, is the principal, who's the former director of workforce investment, who just recently retired. I want to point that out just for full disclosure, I guess, is what I'm getting to full disclosure here. So, and what's the value of this contract?
So the total contract is $77,400 over a 2-year period, but it is also performance-based. So she would have to perform in order for us to cut the check.
Okay, so I mean, you can define that. So if you when you need her for a particular task, you trigger that
Correct.
by asking for assistance on something.
The budget that she proposed was broken down in 3 different areas. One was business services, the other was job seeker and customer service, and then the other was business and job seeker customer satisfaction. So each one of those have a budget and a timeline, and when those activities are triggered, then that would trigger the budget.
Okay, is this contract, there's a retainer, that's what the $77,000 is? Or is it a contract not to exceed $77,000?
It's a contract not to exceed $77,000.
Based on an hourly basis or based on
Based on
hours?
activity.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Well, I just have a comment, so.
right, Pat Farah would be an excellent choice, since she's recently done this position. I guess I want to ask, is this something different that we've done in the past that we need to hire a consultant for? And then I also want to know why you guys feel that we don't have that knowledge base within workforce investment staff as it is.
So it is not something we've done in the past. It is something that under the new law, or newer law, WIOA, they are concentrating more on business services and business engagement. And in fact, in the next few months, they will be coming out with performance measures that we will have to abide by. based on how we're engaging our employers. We don't, I believe, have the capacity in-house to do some of the things that we want to do. We need somebody from the outside who can bring in those secret shoppers, bring in some of those best practices that they have seen work not only in other WIOA areas, but also throughout the nation, that will help us better continuously improve the services that we're providing and the way that we provide those services.
Yeah, so I think I mean, I've used Workforce Investment Services. I've had a training session out in my area that we used all the information that you guys provide. And I just think a lot of times people are not aware of what we have available. And I like that we work with all our local businesses to try and get them involved and find employees for them from our county, which I think is very, very good. And every session I've attended that you guys have put on has been excellent. So I think that whatever we can do to improve job services in Will County is a really good thing. So thank you.
Let me point out, when you say they being the federal government, who heavily regulates the activities of workforce investment, and it continually changes. I've sat on that board for many years. I've been replaced by Ms. Dollinger, who will probably do a much better job than I did. But I was always a little bit of a naysayer, asking these types of questions. And I want people to understand that the activities and the direction from the federal government continually changes in the areas of workforce. Mary, I'm going to also ask you that, when we look at these, I don't know, they don't necessarily have to run this by you. Anything that we have to approve, I'd like to know you've taken a look at, is in total compliance with the federal regulations. So I would ask you to take a look at this.
Take a look at it.
Yeah, so it'll come to the board, so Mary can tell us it meets all the criteria of the federal government, and it's an appropriate expenditure of those funds.
We'll look before next week.
You look before the county board meeting?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Tom?
Is the funding for this come from the federal government? Or
Yes, it does. Anything you see on workforce is federal dollars. And that's why we have to be particularly diligent to make sure they're going in the right direction according to the guidelines of the federal government. So you just cannot spend this money the way you choose. It's for very specific programs, looking for very specific results. And, it's much of it's pretty narrow in these programs, and they're very targeted. That's why it changes. So is there any other?
Jim, I've got a question.
Yes?
It's working? Okay. You said that there were multiple firms out there that had made proposals. I don't see any of those on my list on the agenda.
Well, so what happens is that the reviews are done through the Workforce Investment Board, and then we bring to the county board, because it is over $20,000, we bring it to the county board for approval.
How many proposals did you receive for the consultant? 5?
We looked at those that had Will County experience, those that had WIOA experience, Workforce and Innovation Opportunity Act experience. We weighted those very heavily, and then looked at what their time frame is, what their deliverables and their objectives were, and then what their costs were associated with that.
Maybe we can do, here again, I'm going to assume many of you are not really necessarily familiar with workforce. Maybe we'll, even next month sometime, you can come and give us a little synopsis on how it works. Nick, you could probably help with that too. It's a board that is made up of 50% have to come from the business community. I think that's still the guideline. So it's fairly funded, it's fairly regulated. They have their own board. They make their own decisions. They select their own folks here. They'll come in and ask for recommend us to approve it, And we can kind of ask the questions like we're asking here today, make sure we're following the guidelines. It's, it's for the purpose of the current objectives of workforce and so forth. So maybe we can just give a little, that's what workforce is for those who may not be as familiar. Like your question tells me, Aaron, that you're not maybe quite as familiar with how workforce would work. So,
You're correct.
Nick, maybe you could help with that.
Just for those who haven't been around as long, I know Mr. Mussis, you're well aware of this, the WIOA, which is the new Workforce Investment Act, that was like a 10-year process to get that reauthorized, and that was part of our federal agenda every year.
Yes, it was.
And our Workforce Investment Board, Workforce Services, has been recognized both regionally and nationally, and because of that meeting or exceeding the parameters, we've actually even received incentive money because of our high level of performance. So, but the balance is always helping the people who need the jobs and also the employers who need the employees. So this is, I think, in line with, as Carolyn said, helping more on the business side, because sometimes, I know there's some critics who say we do a lot on the applicant, the job seeker side, but we have done a lot on the employer side, but this is another effort to improve the employer side of things, and we definitely can give, there's lots of information. The other thing I'll just point out is they have the Workforce Investment Board. Gloria is now the county board rep. Don Moran serves not as a board member, but as a labor rep on that, so we have 2 board members who serve on that board. All these items go through I'm sorry. Oh, Herb too, sorry, forgot about you. Sorry, Herb. So we have 3 members on, 3 members on the board. So, but all these things go through the workforce committees and their board, and then they come to the county board. So they get a double review, kind of like the health department. Things go through the health department and come here too for the bigger contracts. So there is a lot of scrutiny, and they are analyzed over and over again by the federal government. So.
And to point out, like I say, 50% of the board comes from the private sector, and they can be pretty vocal. I mean, and supportive, I mean, of what we're doing. Don, you want to say something about from the labor perspective?
Yeah, well, Jim, it's a problem that's been identified by the Workforce Investment Board, this marketing to business side. We've had, frankly, we've had a hard time investing the money into incumbent worker training and that in businesses because the businesses won't come to us. And when we go to them, sometimes they think it's too much work to do the paperwork for what the value is to them.
Yeah.
And I think mostly it's because they don't understand it. And so that's kind of what a big part of this is. But we've known that we've had a problem, and since the WIOA law was rewritten, it's become more significant, I guess. There was a lot of scrutinization of this by the board. This went before System and Trends, where we identified what the issue was. The problem was the RFP was developed, and then it went before the executive committee, and then it went before the full board. So, and obviously cognizant of the fact that Pat's previous relationship with the board would be scrutinized by everyone else. I think all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted on this thing, and there was a lot of special care taken to make sure it was done properly. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Don. Gloria, you want to say anything as a new rep? You're going to be there, making sure we're well represented, correct?
Well, I do have to piggyback up what Don said. Again, we are short on some of the projects that we're doing for the employer, and I think people would be amazed of all the opportunities they have to kind of improve their workforce within that the Workforce Investment Board provides. And so this is a way of getting that information out to our investors and the people in the community about what we have to offer to help them improve their workforce so we can keep more people within our community and improve their job status.
Okay. So. And Mr. Gurley, I see you raise your hand out there. I don't know if you still want to make a comment. The CED works closely, and of course the CED is on the business side or in the private sector side. So, John, I don't know if you want to make a comment.
Chairman, as you know, I'm current chairman of the Workforce Investment Board, and Don and Gloria and others said it right. The program philosophically always is designed to assist the folks that need some extra training and extra assistance to find a job, but equally to help the businesses place people in the occupations and the jobs they have. And that's been probably the biggest challenge for this program across the board. It's not just us. I would say most workforce investment boards have had this challenge. So bringing in somebody with the expertise and the knowledge to help us reach out to those businesses, I'm looking forward to, being able to be very successful with that element of the program. So, and I certainly endorse the agreement with Farragut.
Okay, thanks, John. Like I say, I think that because it's new, it was worth the discussion, and we always want to be transparent. Not many folks from the public go to workforce investment board meetings, but they do come here. And I don't see the press at the workforce meetings very often, but they're always here. So this gives us an opportunity to kind of give very transparent, full disclosure of exactly how that process occurred. I feel more comfortable when we do that. So everyone, thank you for your participation. Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Authorizing contract with Baxter Woodman Engineering Services. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Awarding bid for grounds care snow removal at the Public Safety Complex. Moved. Second. All in favor? Okay, yep, no.
Comment?
Yep.
I mentioned this at Finance the other day. We're contracting snow removal service for the public safety complex, but we are going to look at next year, maybe that the highway might be involved in that, so we can maybe reduce some cost on that, or maybe buy the truck that we can do it through the highway. So this is a one-year contract, and then we'll take a look at that next year.
Along those same lines, well, go ahead, Don, you had your hand up.
There's some discussion, I believe, at the Board of Health about the health department in the future, and I don't know if that's included, but they had brought this up at the Board of Health as well about different maintenance type of things, because right now that is coming straight out of the health department budget, correct? As opposed to not the other way. Right.
For maintenance. I might point out that, Mike, I know you mentioned highway doing it because they're there. But I think we should, Nick, and I guess I'll direct this towards you. I know, is Mike Miglerini or Joel here too? Anyways, okay, well, I'm kind of directing this to, I guess, Nick and Dave. We have a maintenance department. And maybe snow removal is not something that has been amongst the duties. Maybe we've contracted that out. I don't know if we've contracted it out everywhere. To be honest, I don't recall whether, like, the juvenile detention contracted it or the maintenance staff there did it. But I think we should look at those type of activities for our maintenance department. And that would require us, of course, buying some pickup trucks and plows and those kinds of things. But I think that if we're doing a lot of contracting in this area, that maybe we should at least look at exploring our maintenance department doing this as one of our duties. It's not something that is a daily activity. But of course, because along with snow plowing of lots also goes shoveling of sidewalks and stairs and so forth. So maybe we should look at our own maintenance people doing it.
Yeah, and I think along those lines, Joel is kind of working all of those kind of things together. We talked about it, finance and budget, about cleaning supplies and even buying those and how we can consolidate. So I think Joel and Dave will kind of looking at the whole package to see how we can kind of consolidate that, Chuck, and save some money along the way.
Nick or Dave, you want to make any comment on that?
I can make a quick comment. On the snow plowing, I don't have all the details. I can get you the details on what we contract out, but that has been done in a lot of places, contracted out, and there have been a lot of discussions. Mr. Frizzlone mentioned we are on an arc of consolidation, and the health department, we have had multiple conversations about putting them all under the same organizational chart to streamline management, things like that. it doesn't make sense to have multiple contracts for park, or plowing at Sunny Hill and the health department when the same firm could probably do it cheaper under one master contract, so we're working towards that. So that's definitely something we could do. Our staff, though, does do cleanup work, basically. So early in the morning, a contractor may come and plow all of our lots, but our guys have access, like at this building, have access to a small truck that they can clean up during the day if there's snow falling, and they do the sidewalks and other things like that. So there is some complementary work done there. It's not all contracted out, but this is an issue, and we can provide some cost
Analysis.
comparisons
Yeah, I
of
think that'd
of
be
contracted
good, yeah.
versus in-house.
Yeah.
But because, for snowplowing particularly, it's as needed as opposed to everyday maintenance, and we've not added lots of staff to the maintenance, and I think that's something we're gonna have to look at going forward, is how much square footage we have and how much staff is required to manage that. I think with some of the consolidation, we've been able to get by without hiring a lot more staff, but with the onlining of the new courthouse, that's going to add a lot more square footage unless we're getting rid of a certain amount too. So that's a conversation I think needs to be had, and we can prepare. and-
You know, I was always under the impression, and maybe, you know, correct me wrong, it's not necessarily the staff, because, you know, you can designate somebody to go out and do these things without adding a lot of manpower. I always thought it was more of an equipment, you know, do you buy 6 trucks and plows, or what, so forth, or do we buy maintenance vehicles that have the capability that we would use on a daily basis, but also would have the capability of putting a plow on? So, I mean, I think that's part of the analysis. I think a lot of it does come down to, does it make sense to buy a lot of equipment for something you're gonna use?
Well, yeah, the highway
So
department.
that's part of the, I guess what I'm saying is, that's all part of the analysis.
The highway department, they're loading their trucks up and going out of the lot where they plow, so that's why I think they've done it there.
Yeah.
But just as an example, and a thanks to our employees, the last couple weeks, our maintenance guys have been working their butts off because we're moving all these moves from the CAC and the Julie McCabe Sturrs operation, the sheriff's department. We don't hire all that out. We have some help outside, but they're doing a lot of work. If you've gone by the old Center for Community Concerns building, that's going to be the new CAC. They're doing a lot of work there, so so sometimes it's like, where do we want to put our people? Do we want to have them, if it was snowing, would they be plowing snow, or would they be helping set up the buildings? And we're focused on actual maintenance work. I know you've brought this up before, Mr. Moussis, about custodial work versus maintenance work. We want our maintenance guys doing maintenance work as much as possible, because that's what their job is focused on.
Right.
So some of these other things, they're maybe higher skilled than we need to do some of the,
They fall under
Janitorial or-
janitorial people.
and that's why, but we do the cleaning services. We looked at this yesterday because we had some discussions. 13 buildings we use a vendor to clean after hours or, you know, around the workday. So we have a precedent of using that for some of the work. That's for cleaning, not for snow plowing, so.
Oh.
But we can come back with some data to show you
Right.
cost benefit, so.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Right.
Because of benefits and so forth, that's, very often it's more efficient for us to contract it out. But we'll
Right.
do the analysis, and we're gonna see what we'll have it for next year. So, okay, so we had a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. This next, number 11, awarding bid for gasoline and diesel fuel. These bids weren't opened up till this morning. So Rita, I don't know if you want to make a comment on these. Okay.
We received 4 bids from the same 4 vendors as last year. The pricing was very close, so we're asking for the award to go to Gas Depot Oil Company from Morton Grove, Illinois. I did provide some copies. I don't know who got them down.
Can you tell us what it was, the gallon price?
Gallon pricing for 89 octane was 2.151, and for diesel was 2.156. It's an increase over last year, but that's the trend, so we have to go with it. But that is a locked-in price for the entire year.
Yes?
Is there a state contract for fuel?
I don't
that you could buy off of?
I don't believe we can, no. I did check into it, but we've always done our own bid because of the deliveries that we require, the size of the deliveries, but I can check into the state.
Just be interested to see if there was one.
We've done pretty well on our own on
Right.
this, too. So, okay, any other questions?
Just
on
real quick, was
Chris?
this the same vendor that we gave last year?
No, last year it was Petroleum Traders from Indiana. Gas Depot bid last year, but they were third in the pricing. This year, they sharpened their pencil and came in the lowest.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Okay.
Need a motion.
I need a motion on this?
So moved.
Moved? Second? All in favor? Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next, we have awarding bid for office cleaning and public safety complex.
Moved.
Moved, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. And as you mentioned, Mike, we're going to work on this a little bit too, right? So, okay. Next, we have awarding contract for asbestos abatement at the Sheriff's Laraway and State's Attorney's facilities. Moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have renewing contract for security guard services at the Sunny Hill Adult Probation and Workforce Services. Moved. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Can I ask on this, on these security, do they carry a weapon, a firearm, or is this non-firearm? I'm just curious.
It's by location. The Sunny Hill Nursing Home is an unarmed guard. Adult probation is a taser armed.
Okay.
And workforce is unarmed.
Okay. Thank you. 15, renewing contracts for refuse and recycling collection for various county buildings. Moves. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Authorizing an IGA for formation of the Kankakee River Valley Water Planning Area Alliance. I'm going to, this is on here for discussion, not necessarily for replacement. So, is Kurt Paddock here?
Yes.
Where you at, Mr. Paddock? Can you come down a little closer to us, Kurt? Or bring somebody else with you, I don't care, I'm just, because even though, you know, I have suggested to the folks from the who wanted to do the formation of the Kankakee River Valley Water Reclamation, that they go to our Stormwater Management Committee, which goes beyond just stormwater. It's about water quality and so forth and so on. So I guess the name is a little misleading of the committee, but that's how the state did it. So, and I did ask this group to go to them because they kind of recommend water resources to us. You know, this all seems to be always a good idea on the surface, but I never really know. So I'm going to let you folks maybe give us this little information. I say this is for discussion. This is not going to be for placement on the county board. This is for us to continually get educated on this. So it's yours.
Many members of the county board at one time or another have served on the Stormwater Management Planning Committee, so they'd be totally familiar with what I'm about to share with you. The staffing of that particular committee is performed by the Land Use Department. And the principal staff that we assign to it is Scott Killinger, who is our contracted consulting engineer for the work of the Land Use Department, but for the purposes of the staff work associated with the Stormwater Management Planning Committee, he performs the role of their director and administrator. So Scott was approached by a group referenced here with a proposal for a particular type of intergovernmental agreement with the county. I'll have Scott explain to you what the purpose and nature of that proposed intergovernmental agreement is.
So Speaker Moostis, on Tuesday, actually this was heard at Stormwater Committee at their regular meeting. The Godley Public Water District came, Joe Cosgrove and the Mayor of Diamond was there, as well as their attorney. they made their presentation. The Stormwater Committee asked several questions. There was discussion. Most of the minutes obviously are being prepared, but the answer pretty much from the presenters was that we want to form this group, but we don't have a lot of details yet. In general, their purpose would be to do planning and allocation of water from the Kankakee River. So the southern part of the county would be the most interested, I guess. Having said all that, the Stormwater Committee moved that it should be reviewed by the state's attorney, and they moved that they agreed with the idea in principle, but there were a lot of details to work out, so state's attorney review and forwarded on to the executive committee.
Well, I know Mr. Mayor had some concerns this morning that he expressed to me. Of course, Mary, we rely heavily on you here also, and I also may have some general questions on basically, you know, how the overall allocation of water, which is considerable, I think, you know, how that's really dispersed, or if it's equally done, and how people get charged, and all those types of things. But I'm going to let Mr. Mayor, because he specifically came to me this morning to express some concerns. So,
Thank you. And I had an opportunity to sit down with our representative from the Naperville area, Teresa O'Grady, and I know that Teresa's background is in this area.
And Teresa is a member of the Stormwater Committee.
And she is a member of the
She's a
Stormwater.
very valuable resource, and she does have a lot of background in this particular area of water resource planning. So,
And I think this kind of comes off the heels of when the state was down here not too long ago presenting to our committee of a whole and talking to us about some of the real problems that we could have in the future with our groundwater. And this seems to be a much bigger regional issue than these four communities putting the planning together. And I think Teresa also mentioned that there are other planning groups, and again, you guys agreed to this in principle. And principle is really good until we get into the details. And so I think I would agree if we could get Mary and the state's attorneys to take a look at this IGA, but I would like to have some conversation here with the county board and with land use on this from a more regional perspective. You know, how are we going to deal with this regional water issue, and that this particular group is part of the solution, absolutely, but how does this piece fit into all the other agreements and the other plannings that are going on throughout this region, and not just the county of Will, but throughout the region?
if I may, you know, Chuck showed me some of Teresa's comments to him, and I think this goes beyond just having the state's attorney to make sure that the legalese are there, or what some of the pitfalls may be. And I understand that the Stormwater Water Management Committee heard what they had to say and have passed it. But I'm wondering, Scott, Kurt, if Stormwater shouldn't have maybe a little bit of a working session on this and talk about the details of it, and then we'll send it to maybe land use for some additional discussion. So I'm just wondering if there's a little bit more work to be done potentially from Stormwater to talk about the potential details, and maybe, like, for example, at that meeting, I'll just use Teresa since you made comment to Chuck. You know, maybe she didn't have, it wasn't the forum for her to maybe sit down and talk about some of her concerns, or what we should be, in her opinion, what we should be watching for and so forth. So I'm asking the question. I mean, do you think that there should be a little bit more done at Stormwater before we move it on to like land use, Kurt?
Well, I think that the point that's been raised by the member of the committee and by Board Member Maher about how does this particular proposal fit into the total context of water supply issues regionally
Regionally.
is a very, very relevant point. and one which perhaps at the recent meeting of Stormwater wasn't brought forward forcefully enough to evaluate this proposal in that larger context. So I'm guessing a little bit here, but I would think that most of the board members present on that day, if it was put to them, let's take another look at this and try to see it in the framework of that overall regional context, and talk about whether there should be more of a consideration of perhaps in the final analysis, it does make sense to join this particular group, but maybe we just need to be sure that the terms and conditions of our participation in that are congruent with the county's larger set of concerns for overall regional water supply. So in short, I think it would be positive and constructive for the matter to go back to the Stormwater Committee for further discussion about this particular proposal and whether there needs to be an initiative of the county and perhaps through the Stormwater Committee to look more broadly at water supply issues for the county and the region as a whole.
Don?
I attended the first meeting with the county along with Mrs. Militello and County Executive Walsh. But I just wanted to let you know that this is more limited. The scope of this is not large. In other words, for a whole regional water supply from where they own land, it's on their side of the Kankakee River. Godley, Coal City, Diamond. It's more limited in its scope, but overall, if you want to.
Yeah, well, you know, this, Don, is the allocation that they received goes well beyond their needs of those communities. That's what I think.
That's part of the issue.
I think that's part of
the
the
request that they were
overall
looking at 30 million
discussion.
gallons per day. That
would be a regional. That would be
flood 'em.
regional use, actually. So that's what I mean. I think that
They can come here and answer those questions, but, I mean, some of this was brought up at their meeting, but we also discussed the prospect at the meeting that it wouldn't go to the county board in November, that it would go December 21st, and the committee was okay with that.
Yeah, that's probably more
So if you
reasonable.
want to send it
Back
to land use, and then, but we'd ask that it would come back December 21st to the county board.
Okay. Debbie, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I mean, at that first meeting today, I was not able to be here at the land use, the public
At the
stormwater.
Stormwater
I was
Committee
not able
Tuesday.
to be here. Unfortunately, I was somewhere else. They did talk about the aquifers. They are well aware of what's going on, and I think that's one of the reasons they've asked the counties to come in, is I think they were willing to look at a whole
regional.
big picture.
Yeah.
I just ask that you make sure you always include them in
Oh, yeah.
the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because, you know, I think that's very important. But I think they are well aware of the overall impacts, and they're not, you know, because they talked about that and how actually Will County is in more of a hurt than Grundy County is, because they've had people come out and present to them also.
I think the community that's going to have the biggest challenge going forward is probably Joliet, but, and they're not part of this. They could have been, but they haven't, they've chose not to perhaps participate at this point. But Mary, go ahead, Tom, I'll let you, you're on the Stormwater Committee.
I was on the Stormwater Committee when this was brought up earlier this week. I think it's just a planning tool to set up this agreement to allow the different communities in Will County and Grundy County and the county to actually decide where they want to go with this project.
You know what, Tom, I would agree with that, but once they received a allocation from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, I think it goes beyond it's starting to go beyond planning. That's just my perspective about it. They're moving forward for a water supply type commission, which brings me back to Mary. And Mary, obviously, the county is doesn't do water distribution, or and certainly we're involved in water resources from a planning perspective, and in some cases remediation for stormwater and so forth. I'm always concerned about we get involved in something and there could be potentially a negative impact for the county, or people can misinterpret the county's involvement or what our role is. And I'm going to bring this to a question later on similar things, but, you know, why would the county, from your perspective, want to be involved? Now, you don't have to answer that, but we need to know as a county the pros and cons of being part of this, part of a intergovernmental agreement. When we don't run a water system. So, you know, so why would we want to be part of it? That'd be the question I would ask.
Okay, I will keep that in mind as we review it. We did just get the IGA yesterday.
I know.
So we've not really had a chance to look at it at all closely.
And so, Mr. Moose, if I may, also I think one of the things that, in the discussion I had with Teresa, there seems to be a lack of structure yet. I mean, they're in a concept form, and we're being asked to be joining creating an IGA without us knowing what that structure is. So even more so, from what you're saying, I think part of this is we really need to see where their bylaws are. These guys need to do a little more homework before they even come back to stormwater, I think.
If I was to summarize the Stormwater Committee discussion, it would be that. It would be, there's not a lot of detail here, there's not a lot of structure, and my opinion would be probably they need to do a little more vetting before they even came back to
So
stormwater.
this might not even go in December.
Well, I was just going to say.
Because this is something that's going to have to be put together, and there's got a lot more work that needs to be done on everybody's part before Mary could even give us a pluses and minuses of this process.
I was going to say to Don and to Debbie, since I realize this comes out of your district, they have a lot more work to do, and they may not have it ready by December. This can't be, you know, we're going to fill in the blanks later.
Yeah.
I know that, so I'm also pointing out that they need to have all their ducks in a row for us, something to review, and for Mary to really make comment on, outside saying this is not complete enough, or it's not gone along far enough for us to really get involved. So we'll do all these things, okay? Kurt, Scott, you want to make any other comments? All right,
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay. So I'm going to entertain a motion that this goes back for further discussion with stormwater.
So moved.
And then, okay, we got a motion? Second, all in favor? Aye. And Mary, you're going to just put this on your radar now. Okay, all right. Okay, amending ordinance expanding the boundaries of the Des Plaines River Valley Enterprise Zone. Okay, Nick, this is you? Or is this John? Who's gonna do this? Dan? Dan Vera's here. Mr. Vera, Jesus, come on down, Dan. Huh? The guy used to run the county. You all know Dan Vera, he used to run the show here. He was behind the scenes, he ran everything. And now he's a great supervisor from Joliet Township.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Can I blow any more smoke at you, or?
Mutual admiration.
Go ahead, Dan. Hey, Dan, why don't you come down just to make it, okay? Dan never liked to get up behind the podium, but now he doesn't mind so much, right? Well, you were never gun shy.
That's right. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to everybody. On behalf of the new members, I'm Dan Vera with the Des Plaines River Valley Enterprise Zone organization. Today before you, the next three items on your agenda deal with an expansion request, a document that's been started by the City of Joliet. It's really their project. They're the advocates for this expansion request on behalf of two companies. With me today, Mr. Chairman, is Mr. Mike Hansen, one of the attorneys, and the other attorneys that are here on behalf of the company, so the principals are present. But my purpose is on the administrative side of this application. The zone, for those that are new members that aren't aware, we're 5 units of government: Joliet, Lockport, Rockdale, Romeoville, and Will County. and have been since 1983, the first 4 units of government there. In 1989, the Village of Romaville joined the zone. That being said, since we're a large zone, we are allowed up to 15 square miles of zone territory. Currently, 13.61 square miles is allocated between those units of government. Today's request in front of you is for 2 companies. One of them is the big mall that's being development and economic development group, Crossroads, out at I-55 and I-80, as well as the Ecolabs project over on Shanahan Road. This application is for 0.72 square miles to be added to the zone, bringing us to a total of 14.33, still within and under the 15 square miles allocated. So the 2 projects are before you. The Crossroads project is 250 plus acres. You're looking at some $640 million of investment potential as the phases are brought online. They're looking at 2018 to break ground, 2019 to start to bring it online. The Ecolabs project is a $12 to $15 million expansion project to bring on a new liquid facility line out there for production value and to bring the project into the zone. They're adjacent. We have to strip annex to get out to the one out on I-55 and I-80. That's all contained in the documents. For your purposes, 3 of the units of government have already passed the documents you have in front of you. That would be, of course, the City of Joliet went first. City of Lockport has done it, as well as the Village of Romaville. I appeared Tuesday night in front of the Village of Rockdale Village Board. It was for discussion purposes only. I answered their questions, and then they'll approve it on the 21st later this month. So now it's before the county. And what we're asking for is your approval. All 5 units of government must approve the application. Any one of the 5 declines, the application stops. It doesn't go forward. All 5 units must agree. That's been the history since 1983, since this started. That's where we're at. We're asking for approval. I understand from Nick and others, legal counsel on your half has put this through. Steve Jones, the Economic Development Director, Deputy City Manager for the City of Joliet, is not able to be here today, nor was he available Tuesday night. He's out of town till the 13th, so I'm here, got the request from the Executive's office to come today. But what we're asking is for this application to go forward and ask for your concurrence on it. That's where we're at, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
Questions? And the principals are here if you'd like to address them directly.
Okay, any questions? I would say that, the only other, this is really not specific to these projects, Dan, but even though the enterprise zone started out kind of slow, it's been pretty successful.
Yes, it has.
As of late. And I don't know if you want to just in general want to talk about the positive economic impact the enterprise zone has had over the years, but it really has helped Will County come along, bring opportunity, bring jobs, and so forth. I don't know if you want to make any comment just in general
I'll just,
about it.
in just general briefly.
Yeah.
Yes, back in 1983, those that were around in government in those days know that the unemployment was 26.3, 26.8%, whatever it was in those days. It has turned around. That's why there was the impetus to get this started with the 4 original units. And as I said, Romaville came in 1989, as did I. That's how long I've been involved. But anyway, also, the investment has been millions and millions of dollars. Over 600 projects have been created throughout that tenure. It did start out for 20 years, got to 2003, was extended for 10 more years, and then there was an extension from 2013 to 2016 for 3 years. All zones had to apply again through the state of Illinois. There was a contest. The year that we went, the first year, that we had to apply. I believe 63 units of government put in for this application. 49 were awarded. We were lucky enough to get one of those awards. And one of those, not only the units were involved, but many businesses. John Gruling is here from the CED, in case you wanted to ask John. But John was very instrumental in helping us to put this application forward with his support for his organization. Obviously, they work on behalf of you, the county, so they can attest, obviously, to what this investment of the zone has been. Mike Hansen has been involved in a number of projects that have come forward over the years as part of the expansion documents, so Mike could certainly address those. Those have been, without doubt, economically beneficial to the county.
And I might add that, maybe, John, you'd want to comment on this. Many of these projects would have probably not have come here.
Correct.
If they were not in the enterprise zone, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's absolutely correct. Even though the benefits in the zone are fairly narrow, they are significant, especially for new development and new construction. So given the lack of incentives that we're getting from the state these days, anything that we can do locally through zones and TIFs and tax abatements really can make a difference on making some of these projects happen.
Okay, so, thanks, Dan.
Okay, any questions, further
I was
questions?
gonna say, any questions by anyone? Good, Don.
I have some questions regarding the mall proposal, as you put it.
Okay, well, it's lifestyle and apartments and hotels and everything, yes.
Is no warehousing then? No trucks? No?
Well, I'm on the administrative side, the board member Gould. I'll defer to Mike Hanson.
Okay.
Who can answer that?
So, Dan, if you wanna, you can. you
I'll
don't
step
have-
off to the
You
side.
can step off, right? You can go to the side. Have a seat here if you'd like.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to leave after this.
Now, Don, you're asking specifically about what,
I
the
have
Rock
no- I
Run
have no objection to
crossings?
I have no objection to the Eco Lab. We know what they do out there.
Okay, so you want to specifically talk
I'm
about
specifically asking
Rock
about
Run?
Rock Run, yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, there's just a lot of concern in as much as we know that malls in the United States are going out of business all the time, that the retail environment has changed. The Wall Street Journal pointed out malls in Seattle, Washington that are now becoming public libraries, healthcare centers, condos. And now, you know, you talk about retail and then we got 5 Amazon fulfillment centers in Will County and drones are going to take things to your house. So, you know, where are we going as far as this property? This is prime property. And I'll tell you where I'm going with it. I'm very concerned about traffic. I'm very concerned about trucks. If you listen to WJOL and everything, you know, people say, not one more truck on the road. Enough is enough. They started an online petition that they're so angry about I-80 and the problems that it's caused. And I personally don't want an overpass on Mountain Road through a residential area. But by the same token, on the other side of I-55, I understand there's going to be a Hobolt Road bridge. There's going to be a lot of development, along Hobolt Road. And, you know, I understand it, given the proximity of your property to that. So maybe kind of bring us up to date. Where are you today in this retail environment that we're living in? What do you foresee happening out there on this property?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mike Hanson, local attorney for Cullinan Properties. Don, we're very happy to answer your questions as well as anybody else on the committee. I'd like to introduce my 2 clients here. First, to my left, far left, Chris West is CFO for Cullinan Properties, offices in Peoria as well as Burr Ridge. He's the general partner, if you will, in charge of the project. And to my immediate left is Rick Joseph, their in-house counsel, lead counsel out of Peoria. So I'll let either Chris or Rick decide how they want to answer, or maybe that's a team answer of Don's question.
Good morning, Chairman and committee, and again, my name is Chris West. I'll speak a little bit to the project composition, and then Rick can speak more to the enterprise zone specific detail. Again, Cullinan Properties, based out of Peoria, offices here in Burr Ridge as well. We do all sectors of real estate as far as retail, office, medical, multifamily, et cetera. We're looking to, it's a 265-acre site. We programmed it as a mixed-use center with retail, with hotel, with office, with multifamily. As you mentioned, I mean, it's a tremendous site with great visibility at the gateway to Joliet, and one of the things that relative to the status of retail in general, one of the things we pride ourselves on is being able to get a read on the project compositions, how best to react to the market conditions. We have a project down in St. Charles, Missouri, and it's a mixed-use center as well. We worked on it for the last several years. We're now bringing on our second hotel on the site. We have a 3-story, 100,000 square foot office above retail. We have 309 units of residential above retail, has a theater component, has a number of restaurants, looking at another, at a medical office headquarter building. So the point being is that it's a mixed-use center. I agree 100% with you. It cannot be, in today's world, it cannot be just a traditional retail, regional shopping center. Those just don't exist today. They aren't being built on a regular basis. So you have to adjust and adjust to the market conditions. So, restaurants are a big component of the project, on-site lodging, multifamily integrated into the center. So those are the components that we're looking at to really make it exist long-term and not just for today, not for yesteryear. So your points are very valid relative to the Amazon factor and the convenience of online shopping. We feel we have a product mix that will survive and prosper in this time relative to the different components. If it was just singular in nature with retail, so yeah, I mean, not to be critical of Dan's characterization of the project being a mall, it's not intended to be a mall site. We're looking to have it be a mixed-use site. And so that's what we're proposing. We're in discussions with anchor stores, with entertainment components. Again, entertainment's a big component of today's marketplace to integrate with the retail and the restaurants and the multifamily. So we're looking to really take advantage of the nature aspects of it, being there, the creek, the interface with Joliet Junior College, really trying to be a partner. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is being a partner in the community. So we've had numerous discussions with the city of Joliet, with IDOT, as far as where we're at with the project. The interchange is key. Right now you cannot get to the site. So we've worked collectively with IDOT and the city to get the interchange. Access is critical. Without access, it remains a farm field, and so we do think it's would definitely be a better entry into the marketplace to have something that would have all these other components that can help serve the community.
I appreciate that. Let me change the focus a little bit
Sure.
to transportation for a second. I've gone to the village of Shorewood, to Troy Township. They're very concerned about what I had expressed in terms of Mountain Road. I've gone to all the I-55 study meetings. Maybe you have too. I don't know if you have or not. I've gone to every
Yeah, I've
one of
attended
them.
those as well, correct.
And I'll just ask you directly, would you take that Mountain Road overpass out of your project? Would you consider that? In as much as that is through a residential area, and really knowing how the village feels about it and how the township feels about it.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things, and I don't want to get sidetracked on the enterprise zones. I don't
just
think,
wanna ask
and I'll answer direct. I'm not opposed to answer direct. I'll be very candid. I just want to make sure that, number one, IDOT is going through a complete vetting process. As you mentioned, the different public information meetings, they have these CAG meetings, community advisory groups. It's a series of 5 to 6 meetings. I've attended those as well. So it's a process. It's not a done deal as far as where the roads are and the access. When we looked at it, the previous developer had the interchange and it had a ramp going directly into the property. And we were not, that was very selfish on that developer's part, not to throw the other developer under the bus, but it was a very selfish kind of proposal as to what they were looking for. We looked at it and started, threw out those plans, sat down with the city, sat down with IDOT and said, what's best for the region? What works best? So County Farm Road, it was already elevated and done on the west side of I-55 to accept a connection on the east side as well. So the interchange is half built. It's completing the interchange at this point. But what works best to make the east-west, north-south grid structure to connect Humboldt, on the east, 59 on the west, improve the life safety aspects of it as far as getting first responders across the highway, the cross connection there, getting people to Joliet Junior College and just to the business between Joliet and Shorewood. So we have a connector clearly to County Farm in this concept, but we don't have the ramp dumping people right onto the site. So the north-south connector is important to get from County Farm onto the property, because the other important part of where our property is, although we've got great frontage along I-55, we do not have any frontage on County Farm Road itself. The Kinder Morgan gas pipeline facility actually fronts County Farm. On the east side, you have the Rock Run Creek and the nature preserve, the nature district there. So in a lot of sense, we're landlocked. So the important access from the north is important. Access from the east is contemplated on Olympic Road going over to Humboldt through the Rock Run development, the IDI Gaisley Office Park. And then ideally, the Mountain Road Bridge is important from when you think about on a Saturday afternoon during the holidays, trying to get up and access either one only going east to Humboldt through the office park, or going north and trying to see how many cycles you'll be sitting through of a signal to turn left to go west. So the the Mountain Road Bridge connector is not contemplated for truck traffic. Let me just be very clear on that. We're perfectly open to having that road regulated to have zero truck traffic on that Mountain Road connector. The Mountain Road connector is to help with the, number one, spread the site to maximize the density on the site relative to make it a true mixed-use center. Otherwise, everybody want to be at the north end, and there would be no growth to the south. And you'd have a couple businesses on the north end of the property and no growth to the south. So Mountain Road gives you, plus a better, easier east-west connection. I agree it is into Shorewood there, but it's intended to be passenger vehicles only and not truck traffic to maximize, again, the mixed-use aspect of the program. Without you know, you think about Lewis Joliet Mall, you think about Fox Valley, you think about Oak Brook Shopping Center, Orland Square, all the centers that I know everybody in this room is familiar with. They usually have 3 to 4 sides of access around the property, not just visibility and frontage, but actually access. A lot of times there's anywhere from 5 to 10 curb cuts around the perimeter of the property to allow people to come in and out multiple different directions. Right now, without the Mountain Roads, we're really limited to 2, going north to County Farm and east to Humboldt. And again, it's not direct frontage, it's indirect frontage, if you will, to get to those 2 points. So the Mountain Roads is important. Is it absolute? No. And there's a lot of different sentiments about it. IDOT has not approved it. Again, there's a formal process for IDOT to go through and vet that out as well. So we're not sitting here today to say it's, but I will say that without it, it does change the complexion of the project relative to how much can really be programmed on the site to address all the other things I talked about: entertainment, retail, restaurant, hotel, multifamily. Because you can only get in and out, you know, you need the capacity, the outlets, ingress, egress, the proper ingress, egress to get to those, to serve those different uses.
Thank you.
Can I ask, so would you be willing to at least formalize that there'd be no truck traffic on Mountain Road?
Absolutely.
So we can be assured that if it went through, that there'd be absolutely no truck traffic on that road?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Rick Joseph. I'm Cullinan's general counsel. Cullinan is prepared to do what it can in that regard. I mean, obviously, this is going to be a city street within it, but we would encourage the city of Joliet to restrict truck traffic. And please understand that that is also to the development's benefit. It does not do the development any good where you have a mixed-use development with aspects of entertainment and especially with aspects of residential for us to allow that to be used as a shortcut for truck traffic. So what we have here is your interests, as expressed by this county board commissioner, align with ours in terms of not wanting to use that for purposes of truck traffic. So the answer to your question is not only yes, but it's also in our best interest to be able to do that.
Can I ask, will you be doing some type of projected traffic study of the vehicle use on, like Mountain Road, for example? Are we going to be?
Yes.
Are we going to be getting some at least preliminary, so we would know what the impact would be?
Yes, again, I would say that IDOT, that's exactly what they're doing. They've hired an engineer. They're in their phase 1 studies right now. And again, their phase 1 to characterize phases, the way I define phases is this corner of the site plan, this corner of the site plan, this corner of the site plan. The way IDOT characterizes phases is phase 1 is pre-engineering, phase 2 is the engineering, and phase 3 is the construction. So they're in phase 1, which is the pre-engineering. They're going through just that, what you indicated is the traffic studies, the estimates, and all that, before they then identify what's the optimum road configurations and access and traffic loads, because they're also trying to, some of this system, you know, with the County Farm Road is to help, you know, some of the congestion issues on Route 52 and Jefferson. But yes, that's part and parcel to that process.
Dan, let me ask you, you know, obviously this is the executive committee would just be setting the agenda, moving something to be voted for the full county board next week.
Correct.
Do you think you can talk with Joliet to see if they would commit to restricting this to no truck traffic?
Well, obviously, that would be a City of Joliet issue. I would contact Steve Jones,
That's
who's
what
the
I'm
lead
saying.
on this, and he's out of town till the 13th, Jim, just so you know. So it would be after the 13th.
No, we can get, well,
Well, I would like, from my
the board is on the
perspective-
16th.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'd like, and I expressed this to Mr. Hanson, that I wanted an opportunity for these gentlemen to meet with the Village of Shorewood and their village
Well, they-
manager.
okay, well,
Because of the impacts and.
Will you be willing to do that within the
I'd like to
next,
have a meeting as well.
maybe at the early next week?
We've committed to
Mike?
that, Don, and we will certainly see if we can do it next week before the county board meeting. If not, we probably looking to have a continuance of the matter.
Yeah,
so.
you know, if I could just say something in general about, look, you know, I've understand, you know, these are municipal projects. This is a Joliet project. This is not a Will County project. And pretty routinely, we're supportive of their economic development. Now, I suppose as we continue to expand out, we start bumping up on other interests, right? Whether it be municipal interest. You know, Dan, as you know, we as sometimes supervisors become advocates on how the unincorporated areas are being impacted, because we're their only voice, right? And through the years, you know, I've been very active in letting folks know how they're impacting the unincorporated areas. And of course, most municipalities didn't care, frankly. That's like tough kind of thing. But we also have these things with municipalities now starting to impact potentially other municipalities, which puts us, I think, in kind of a difficult position. You know, we're not here to be obstructionists. We're here to assist the municipalities in their economic development. Certainly, that's a role of the executive's office, and one of the primary roles of a position of an executive under state statute. You know, so obviously, you know, I'd like to hear from the county executive on this matter also. But I do think good communication is vital when you start bumping up to people who have different interests, including the unincorporated areas. And many times I did get concessions, not so much from the municipalities, but from the developers, you know, saying, yeah, okay, maybe we can do it a little different. Yeah, we'll move the road. Yeah, we never realized that those conditions, you know, existed, and then the impact it's going to have, whatever. So I kind of throw it back to developers. You know, municipalities' governments tend to be kind of rigid, you know. So you almost might get to be the arbitrator here. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
So I do think some of that burden falls on you of making Shorewood a little more comfortable with the development. And, you know, the next development will be in Shorewood, and Joliet won't feel so comfortable. I mean, that's how it kind of sometimes work. Or the other municipality, or Plainfield won't be so comfortable with it. It's a never-ending kind of thing. We routinely have been supportive. But we would like to see some maybe additional communications, and maybe some guarantees that would make people feel more comfortable. Don, you have anything else to say?
Rather than rush it, I'd like to see Shorewood consider this, take it to their board meeting. So I'm going to make a motion to table this.
Second.
Okay. Well, that means it comes back next month automatically. So, well, there's no discussion on the tabling motion, so take the roll, please. Well, wait, you know what? Wait till we get to it first, Don. We actually,
Number 17,
okay, so number 17, the amending the ordinance, expanding the boundaries for Des Plaines River Valley Enterprise Zone. And this was for the purpose of, yeah, right. So this, the first one is actually Des Plaines, is for the EZA administrator. This was for the.
Expanding the boundaries of the other one.
They're all tied together. So Mary, would we have to we have to table all three? Okay, so then we'll, so I'm bringing it on, now understand, understand, I'll bring everyone up individually and put it on the table. So you have to make motions on these individually as they come up. So number 17, amending ordinance expanding the boundaries of the Plains River Valley Enterprise Zone. Motion to table. There's a second. Take the roll, please.
Benefield?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Frizzalone?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Ogalla? Yes. Parker? Yes. Staley Cleary? Yes.
Yep.
Weigel? Winfrey?
Yeah, reluctant, yes. Number 18, amending the Des Plaines River Valley Enterprise Zone, IGA, for the Rock Run Crossings expansion request. There's a motion to table. There's a second. Take the roll, please.
Benefield.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Frizalone.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Ocala. Yes. Parker. Yes. Staley Berry. Yes. Weigel.
Yes.
And Eustace.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Number 19, amending the Des Plaines River Valley Enterprise Zone, IGA, for the Echo Lab expansion request. Motion table.
Second.
Second. Take the roll, please.
Benefield.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Frizalone.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Ocala. Yes. Parker. Yes. Staley Berry. Yes. Weigel. And Eustace.
Yes. Yeah, before I let you move on with your day, can you tell me, is there going to be any, is there any sensitivity to a timeline here? I'm just wondering if it's time sensitive, this matter. How time sensitive is this matter?
Well, I mean, I think we'd like to have it done at the next meeting, the next time. So we'll definitely work right away to get with Shorewood. But, we continue to, apply for federal grants and move with IDOT and just, there's obviously steps in the process, and this is one of them, and just like to have it behind us as well. And
Okay.
go ahead.
If I may, I can't, Mr. Chairman, give you a hard and fast deadline where it's a drop dead, but understand that, the enterprise zone, much like all the other municipal and county incentives and tools that you have available for development, factor into this. And if the enterprise zone is not going, if this property is not going to be in the enterprise zone, that pulls one piece away. That has an adverse impact upon the economics, has an adverse impact upon the scope of work and the offsite that can be done for the infrastructure. My point is, IDOT, the city, everybody's making plans in connection with that based upon projections. And so we reach a point where you have a point in time where if those objectives are not met, then it just gets delayed significantly.
Well, I guess that's why I'm asking it. I mean, I don't want it further delayed, probably. It has to be voted on, so.
Well, we certainly support and understand the needs of the public, and would be happy to meet with this gentleman and municipalities involved, and we encourage that, and we look forward to that. We would hope that we would be able to address their concerns in a fashion which at least allows this matter to proceed favorably at the December board meeting.
Okay.
So I just wanted to comment that I'm supporting my local county board reps who represent this area, and the residents out there, they've really been hit with a lot of traffic, and that is a big concern of mine, to make sure that this is done so that there isn't, it doesn't complicate the problems that exist out there today. And in addition to that, I think there are open questions here, is conversations with other entities that should happen. So this gives a month to have that happen. And then also, I don't have anything here, but I would like to also see a more development plan of what the proposed area might look like as far as the development for your purpose as well, as to what will it look like? Where will you have the housing? Will you have warehousing? What percentage would be warehousing? Things like that. So that we make an informed decision. I know the enterprise zone is very important, and I get that, and I think it's very good to do to help bring the development that provides jobs and everything to us. But I would like those answers first before I could go ahead and approve it. So that's why I helped.
I make, I want to make one other comment, though, in that regard, Judy. And Don, I think, in regard to, let's say Shorewood has a development. Well, they're not in an enterprise. They don't need to go through an enterprise zone. They don't need to come to Will County, And they talk about traffic until they're developing something. Then the traffic's not as important, I guess. My point is, if they got a policy of saying, hey, we don't want to create traffic in this area, then it should be for them too. What policy are they going to have? We have to be careful that this is just not, we're not just being used, not that, for a competitive, putting somebody at a competitive or competitive situation is, and I'm using Shorewood, I can just say community X, they say, well, they don't want this, the next door community doing it because it's going to create traffic. Then does that mean they're not going to do any more development that creates traffic? You know what I'm saying? I think it's a fine line. Now, for the community, the general community, not the government, they're always pretty consistent. They don't want any more traffic. But I'm just saying that, you know, it's something that I think we have to be very conscious of, that most of municipal development goes on with any input from Will County, and we have very little control over it. And this is really about an enterprise zone. And in this case, maybe we can be a fly in the ointment, but, you know, I have other concerns too, as you know, Don, so.
And yet, at meetings of this type, we should have municipalities hopefully here sometimes to weigh in on these
Yeah,
questions.
but they need to say they're gonna follow the same set of rules they wanna put on their neighbor. That's my point. Most of the time, they do not. Okay.
You know, I think you hit on something that's very important. The request here today is to expand the Des Plaines River Valley Enterprise Zone for development. The specific development is not part of enterprise zone approval or disapproval. It never has been. It's not intended to be a land use control or a traffic control tool. It's strictly an incentive tool. So anything that is concerning to anybody about the design, the bridges, the traffic flow, the use itself, as you suggested, Jim, happens at the municipal level. That's where those entitlements come from. The state of Illinois is doing a deep dive in their phase one. They may come back and say, you know, Mountain Road makes no sense for this plan. And then these guys will have to live with that. I'm just worried that we're getting into a space here that really doesn't relate to the enterprise zone of the request, side of the request. And I just...
I guess that's what I was trying to say, is that we need to be careful. It's not meant for us to use the enterprise zone, you know, to control development by municipalities.
Right, but there were people who, I wasn't on the board, but there were people at the time who said, well, why do you want to expand the enterprise zone to take in a racetrack, because isn't that intended to be for economically depressed areas? And therefore, that was an opposition. And that was based on a substantive use, not just expanding for business, but, you know,
Well,
we don't want it because it doesn't fit their purpose.
I may have been the only one here that was here.
I just remember at the time.
I
that was questioning us.
actually opposed the expansion of the enterprise zone based on what you just said, Don. It's like, well, that wasn't meant for a racetrack. Where's the development there? So, but you know, I was in the minority.
Right.
In that situation. But since then, we've expanded it, we extended the enterprise zone again. I mean, and quite frankly, even though I still wouldn't have given it to the racetrack expansion, but in general, the expansion, even though it might be the same economic area, it's economic disadvantages that existed in the mid-'80s when it was put in, when we had 25% unemployment. I think the enterprise zone is extremely, is necessary for the communities that are part of it to be competitive in the marketplace, especially for certain kinds of development. So I still think it does play a role, even though I still don't agree with the racetrack. You know, so you know, if you don't like the enterprise zone, then, you know, next time they want to extend the life of it, we'll say no. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to, but
It's 15 years.
Pardon?
It's 15 years down the road.
I know, I'm hoping I'm still here. And I'm hoping I'm still here and just not drooling on myself, right? So, there you go. Anyway, obviously it's gonna move forward, but, you know, John probably stated a little better than I stated it. You know, the purpose of the enterprise zone is for economic development. And we've never, I can say outside of, we've never gotten involved in the type of development that was going on. Outside of like the racetrack, I said I didn't agree with it. I mean, but like I say, I was in the minority. I mean, I think it would be nice if Joliet came also and made contact. And Nick, you know,
Well, Steve would have been here today, but he's out of town
I
today.
understand. And Nick, the county executive, this is one of the main functions of the executive's office, is to weigh in on this. I think you're going to take a position that you're seeing here. But the county executive, not now, you don't need to make comment now. I mean, you can if you want, but I'm just saying you don't have to. But I'm expecting some comment from the executive's office in relation to your role in economic development in the county, so.
We can bring forward formal letters of support, but generally, when we bring them forward, unless we're opposed, we wouldn't bring them forward if we weren't supportive of it. And this, as we've talked about many times, this is an economic development tool for Will County. We want this development. It's right along 2 highways. We'll come back and we'll talk more about it. So.
And like I say, it's not to, you can start pitting people against each other. We're not doing that, so. We'll bring it next month.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I stretch this meeting out any more, you think? I'm going to try. I'm going to try. Okay. Number 20, extension of the term of board of review. Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. New hires for the county executives. Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. By the way, the new hires all relate to moving the dispatch center, the new dispatch center, just so it's all understood. You know what, well, proclamations, Herb, what do we got in? All right, we'll just approve them. Make a motion, Herb. Move, second, all in favor? Aye. We also have the appointments of the county executive. Move, second, all in favor? Aye. Other new business, Mary. And this, I don't want to take any more of your time, folks, but I think there are some issues we need to address. Everybody get the 150 emails about stopping development and so forth. Did anybody get those emails? I think we all did. They were, whether you read them or not, we all got them. And of course, and I have some another issues specific in my district. My concern is people, our residents send us these emails asking for our help, our assistance in something. And what's difficult for me, and I'm sure all of you, is what they're asking of us, we just can't, we don't have the authority to intercede, or we don't have the authority to do anything about it. The county, the municipalities, for example, have much more authority from a land use perspective than the counties do. I mean, they actually get mile-and-a-half jurisdiction outside their boundaries. We don't get a mile-and-a-half jurisdiction inside their boundaries, in their corporate limits. So when folks are saying, stop everything, do a land use plan, we don't do land use plans for the municipalities. We have no authority to do that. So, Mary, a lot of what folks are looking to us for, we flat out don't have the authority to do it.
Correct.
And what I'd like to do, it can be a letter, it doesn't have to be an opinion, but on some of these things we get, I'd like to get something from the state's attorney's office, basically stating that the county has no authority or jurisdiction in these matters. If you want to change, get the state legislature to change it, which is not very unlikely. I will offer, and I'll take this to the board. You want to have a committee of the whole, or we'll have some type of a meeting, and people who want to come and vent, or come to our meeting and vent, but understand, there's nothing we can do about it. Even in the unincorporated areas, I have a situation in my district where there's been a gun club there for many years. They shoot skeet, or clay pigeons, whatever you want to call it. And, they're shooting shotguns. Yeah, they can be noisy. And I have people complaining they don't want them shooting there. They have the ability to, they cut it off at 10 o'clock, and they think the neighbors like it cut off at 7 or whatever. And we've been out there and told them. We don't have the authority. The land use, because they contact the land use department. Of course, now they contact their elected officials, but I need to tell them the same thing. If there's something I could look at, or if I could assist you or help, but there's not. And the last thing I want to do is show up at a meeting and go, nothing I can do about it, And so I think we need to educate the general population on what types of authority does the county have in certain areas. And Mary, I'm going to look to the state's attorney's office for that, but not just telling us. I'd like to see something in written form, and like I say, it doesn't have to be like, if you want to make it an official opinion, but it doesn't have to be, So I can say, look, I've gone to the state's attorney's office. Here, the county in this manner, that we don't have the authority. Here's what we have the authority to do, and here's what we don't have the authority to do. And probably referencing the statutes or whatever, but we have no, especially for the municipalities, we have no jurisdiction over a municipality and what they do. I don't know how much we're planning to put it. And in land use cases, even in unincorporated areas, they have the rights, land use rights or land rights, and if they're within those rights, there's nothing we can do.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
I mean, I have folks in my district, because I do have a lot of rural areas, I have people in my district that have their own private gun ranges on their property. And some are basically rural, kind of suburban. They got 4, 5, 6 acres. New person moves in, they call the sheriff's department. Sheriff's department comes out and goes, there's no public safety. If there's not a public safety issue, they have the right to use their property for that purpose. And I know you may not like it, but that's pretty much what it is. So Mary, if you can assist us, and like I say, in the case of a letter, attending a meeting occasionally, if we think it's really necessary, would be appreciated. So maybe you can give us something on the I guess they're really making reference to that North Point development, but maybe we can get something on that. And I personally, me specifically, I got that gun range. It's not even a gun range. It's basically skeet shooting or clay pigeon shooting. I have that issue, even though we've told them they're within their rights.
Yeah.
And I think Phil may have told them that.
Well, we had additional legislation that is on the books that specifically prohibits a county or a municipality from passing any legislation or impeding a gun range's ability to shoot based upon noise. So that very much limits what
I think that's, if you can send that to me too, and maybe, put in, because that's how I'm gonna start responding to it. It's like, if you want to change, go to your state legislator and ask them to get the legislation changed.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
That's the only remedy, correct?
Yes.
You don't need to tell them that, but I'm saying, the only remedy they have is to go through.
Well, or they can buy the property. If they
Or they
own
can
the
buy the
property,
property.
they have control over it.
I remember one time when a guy says, well, if they develop that, they're gonna ruin my view. Well, you didn't, if you wanted the view, you should have bought it,
Yeah.
But it is, people do sometimes extend their property rights out a little further than probably the law allows. So Mary's gonna do that for us. Lori, go ahead.
I keep pressing the button, it just never seems to work, but you got to take care of it from here. I received all those letters too. I actually tried to respond to as many of these people as I could, and I understand some of your points, Jim, but we are their elected officials. Sometimes it is much more productive for us to bring to those state officials what their concerns are, so they can be addressed.
Oh, we can move it on, I
Well,
agree.
it's not just a matter of we can't do anything. We can sit down with them, and we can actually try to get the discussion forward for what their concerns are, and maybe kind of try to bring them together with the municipalities, which is a very difficult thing to do, believe me, because I've tried. And, they tend to ignore us, but we are their elected representatives in the unincorporated areas, and we need to get, maybe make that first contact with the state people.
Well, let me say that I agree with you in regards, so we represent them, and I'm not saying that we ignore them or tell, hey, throw up your arms. I don't mean we can't assist them in the right direction. But I will tell you this, I think sometimes the worst thing you can do is give people false hope when you know there's nothing you can do.
I'm
to
not
give them-
asking you to give them false hope.
No, I'm saying give.
What I'm
give-
asking
and I'm saying
us
you're
to
doing this.
do
I'm saying
is
giving
to sit
people the
with them.
impression that you can do something when you can't. I think you need to understand to say, hey, I as a Will County government, we're limited. As your representative,
But this is what we can do for you.
We can go to your state, we've go to the state, and by the way, if you want to bring those types of things forward, like at the legislative committee, and suggest that we send it, something to our state reps for action, that's the kind of thing we can do. But to actually change it, or to have some kind of authority, no, we can't. And I can tell you, the difficult thing about some of this is having the county having a consistent policy. Well, I don't object to CSX, but I object to North Point, because I live by North Point, I don't live over here, so all of a sudden people start doing things kind of not in my backyard, and it's not necessarily a consistent
Exactly.
policy from the county. So, if we're gonna set a policy, it's for the entire county, not for what's in your backyard. And most of us react to what's in our backyard. And I'm no different than that, Don.
Lori, I think we're all on the same page.
I know we are,
I think
Don.
it's just, there's a misunderstanding sometimes in the public that there's some legal authority that we might possess to change zoning, like we can't affect the zoning.
Correct,
within the village
and that's not what I'm
of-
talking
within the
about,
village of
seriously.
Creighton. Right, and that's what I
Yeah.
think he's asking the state's attorney to address,
Yeah.
that we don't have.
This
legal
is what we
authority
can do,
to
but here we can open that door for you to sit down and maybe
no.
sit with them while they're trying to mitigate whatever their issues are.
Okay, can we?
That's a different thing.
That's
can we-
what I'm
yeah,
talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're not,
Understand.
but
You know what, I'm
can
gonna
I
lose a
finish?
quorum. I'm gonna lose a quorum. If you don't mind, we can continue this discussion.
Okay.
Let me just get through this real quick. So, is there any, is there any committee reports? Just tell me no.
No.
No? No.
Tom needs to save his space for this.
Tom needs to save space for?
I need to save 3 or 4 spaces. Our meeting is next Tuesday.
Okay, good.
Rezoning cases and a resolution.
Okay, you're making that motion, Tom?
Second.
Motion second.
Yep.
All in favor? Aye. Is there anything else anyone has on a committee that they want to mention here? Obviously, the budget will be going forward, and the levies, we already did the levies. So we'll be doing that. Is there anything, I don't go real quick. Don, you have anything? Tom? No?
Yes.
No? Okay. So then I'll enter, is there any public comment at this time? I have no further comment. There's no need for executive session, Mary. And so I will entertain a motion to set the county board agenda as amended.
Second.
Move second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, is there any other, and you can continue discussion, but I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Move. Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.